Object that is formed by polygons. So these two shapes down here are considered to be polyhedrons, but they also have other names. But because we do call them polyhedrons, let's go ahead and write that down. So a polyhedron is a 3D object made up of polygons. So these two shapes are considered polyhedrons. They also have other names. This is our triangular prism, which I have right here. A triangular prism is made up of what? What do you see?
Triangles.
It's made up of two triangles. Those are the bases. That's what it's named after. And how many rectangles? And three rectangles. And those are called the lateral faces. So, not only is this called a triangular prism, it's also called a polyhedron. I don't have one of these guys over here. But this is called an octahedron. Any guesses why it's called an octahedron?
Oh, 8 sides.
Because it's got 8 faces. Right? If you put it together, it's got 8 faces. So, those are polyhedrons because they're 3D shapes and they're formed by polygons. This one over here is not a polyhedron. And the reason it's not a polyhedron is because it has a curved surface, which is not a polygon. So since it has a curved surface, we do not call that a polyhedron, but it does have its own special name, which is a cylinder. And so I just wanted to show you the cylinder unfolded. So here's our cylinder, and when you unfold it, this just looks wrong. What do you see?
I see
Rectangle and 2 circles. Okay.
I see something else.
So a rectangle and 2 circles, and that is our cylinder. Okay, a couple other words we need to know. Sorry, the last couple days have not been good for me teaching as far as naughty things have been concerned. So. Okay, this guy right here is called a vertex. It's where your 2 sides come together or 2 edges come together. That's a vertex. Okay, this piece right here, this is an edge. That's where your 2 faces come together. So this is called an edge. And this one right here, it is a lateral face. It's not the base, and so I call it a lateral face. So a little terminology that we talked about yesterday, but we were going to talk more about today and some other days. Okay, down here, this is talking about prisms. Can you guys listen and not talk? This won't take too long. We just need to get through it. A prism has 2 faces that we call bases. They are congruent parallel polygons. And then we talked about this yesterday, that the lateral faces are parallelograms or rectangles. So my cube, it's a cube, but we also call it we could call it a regular rectangular prism because the bases are squares or regular rectangles, and then all the other faces are rectangles or squares. And then this one is considered to be a right. Does it say it in here? Yeah, it's a right prism because this is a right angle, whereas over here, this doesn't make a right angle, so it's called oblique. Oblique is like if it's slanted. So I'm just going to put slanted down here to help you with the word oblique. So oblique is if it's kind of slanted, it's not really standing upright. Okay, so going through some of this vocabulary again. This guy right here, what would you call that? That is a vertex. It's where 2 edges come together, so that's a vertex. Okay, this right here, that I'm going to call the base. Okay, this one that I'm coloring right now, lateral face, very nice. I'm sorry. I'll slow it down.
Thank you.
So the vertex is where the two edges come together. This top one and then that bottom one, of course, would be a base. And then all the sides are your lateral faces. And then this arrow is talking about this right here. And this is an edge, but we're going to call it a lateral edge because it's an edge of the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and call that a lateral edge. Okay, and then on this other picture over here, this is actually the shape right here. This isn't a part of the shape, but any idea what this might be talking about? This is the shape. This is the shape right here. What shape is this, by the way? A triangular prism, but because it's slanted, we call it an oblique triangular prism. This is not a part of the shape, these two lines. Any idea what this line right here is about?
Height.
It's about the height. Do you know another name for height?
Altitude.
Altitude. Good. You don't? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mr. Altitude, you are not liked by some.
Who likes altitude anymore?
Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is just starting to get into our naming. Now, the reason I gave you the markers was I just thought if you wanted to color some of the things as we wrote, that might be nice for you. If you don't feel like you want to do that, that's okay. Okay. First thing I want to do is name the bases of the two prisms, and it says the bases are shaded. Can you even tell what's shaded? Probably not. Okay, this guy is shaded, and this guy is shaded, and over in this picture, that piece is shaded, and that piece is shaded. Okay, so it wants us to name the bases, and it tells us that the bases are shaded. So I'm going to draw this base with my marker. What would you call that base? Yeah, but like, how would you name it? A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D. My other base, I'm going to go ahead and color it in the same color. What could I call that one? E, H, G, F. So they don't have to be in alphabetical order, but you want them to be in order of what you see. E, H, G, F, or E, F, G, H, if I did go that way. Yeah, don't do E, G, F, H. You want the letters to be in order, like if you're tracing it. So it could be H, E, F, G, could be G, H, E, F. You just want the letters in order. Okay, when I look at the right hexagonal prism, what would I name this base?
RSTUVW.
Yeah, RSTUVW. Okay, and then my other base is this other hexagon. And hopefully you knew what the bases were in this one, because that's what it's named after, is its bases. Okay, and what would you call this one? One of my autumns, I don't care which one. What would you name it like we've been naming the others?
LMNOPQ.
Okay, LMNOPQ. Okay, so this is called a hexagonal prism because the bases are hexagons, and it's a prism because all of the lateral faces are rectangles. This one's a rectangular prism because the bases are rectangles and all the lateral faces are rectangles. Okay, so number 2, this one wants me to name the lateral faces. So the lateral faces, those are your sides. They're not the bases, they're the sides. So let's just name this one that I'm coloring right now in orange. And what would I call that lateral face? ADFE. Okay, now I'm going to color this other lateral face. What would you call this lateral face? CDFG. Sure. CDFG. Okay, let's go ahead.
2 F's. ADFF.
So ADFE. Thank you. Okay, this one over here, I'm going to color this lateral face. What could I call this lateral face over here that I'm coloring in orange? BCGH. Okay, and what's the other lateral face that I'm missing? ABHE. It's the guy in the back. ABHE. Okay, do you know how many lateral faces there are for this hexagonal prism? There's 6. Since the base has 6 sides, then there's going to be 6 lateral faces. I don't care if we name all 6, but let's just name a few. So, what would I call this lateral face up here? RWML. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and color this lateral face right here. What could I call this lateral face right here? WVNM. Okay, do you feel like we need to continue, or are you okay with that? Okay, and everybody's good to know that there are 6 lateral faces? Yes. Okay, so if this was your homework, I would want you to name all 6 of them, but just because I think most of you get it, then I'm just going to stop with those 2. Okay, number 3. This is asking for all the edges, and I don't know that I want all the edges, but we'll do some of them. Let me try to grab a different color. Maybe I'll use black. Okay, if I want edges, I'm going to start with the right rectangular prism. This right here would be considered an edge, and what would you call that? AE. And I know it's going to be hard for you to see what I'm writing and see the picture at the same time. But this edge is AE. This is another edge. What would you call that one? AD. Okay, here's another edge. What would you call this one? DF. Okay, here's another edge. What would you call this one? EF. Okay, here's another edge. What would you call this one? DC. Adam? Okay, what would you call this edge? I said okay. CG. Okay, what would you call this one? FG. Have I already named DF? Yes, I have. Okay, so what are some that I haven't colored yet that you see? HG. Okay, HG is one, so let's write that one down. What's another one? EH or HE, so EH. Okay, I heard BC. I know I heard something else too. So BC is one. BH is one. What's another? I think there's one more.
Did you color it in orange?
I haven't colored it.
AB.
AB.
It looks colored.
It was colored when I had it in orange. I don't think I have it anywhere in my list, though. Okay, so do we all know what edges are? Are you okay if I don't do the edges of the hexagonal prism?
Please don't do it.
Okay, number 4, it wants an altitude of the 2 prisms. So an altitude would represent its height. And you could give me pretty much anything you wanted. What do you think might be an altitude in this right rectangular prism? CG. CG would be a fine altitude. That would represent the height of how tall that shape is. So I'm just going to use CG. Let's look at the right hexagonal prism. What do you think might represent a height there? And you have lots of choices. WM, that would definitely represent a height. And if you notice the ones that Mickey told me, she chose the ones that had the right angle attached. So you know for certain, since that's a right angle, that WM is a height or an altitude. Over here, there was a right angle right there. So you know for certain that CG is a height or an altitude. Okay. Let's see what's on the next page, because I think it's more of the same. Okay, these are getting into, what are these shapes? These are pyramids. Pyramids have only one base, and the lateral faces are what shape? Triangles. triangles. So, okay, I guess I have a couple pyramids in here. So this one, you can see that the sides are triangles. What's its base? A triangle. So what would you call this one? A triangular pyramid. How many lateral faces is it made up of? It's made up of 3. It's made up of 3 lateral faces, and that's because its base has 3 sides. Okay, this one is a pyramid because its lateral faces are triangles. What's its base? So you would call this a
square pyramid.
A square pyramid. How many lateral faces does it have? 4. It has 4, and that's because its base has 4 sides. Okay, so that's what pyramids are. They're made up of triangles and 1 base, and the shape is named after its base. So I want to name these. What would you call this one right here?
A triangular pyramid.
Okay, this one is a triangular pyramid. What would you call this one?
A square pyramid.
Okay, a square pyramid, or it could possibly be a rectangular pyramid, but I'm going to go with square. So square pyramid. What about that other one?
Trapezoid pyramid.
What? A trapezoidal. The base is a trapezoid, so we call it a trapezoidal pyramid. And once again, it's a pyramid because all of the lateral faces are triangles. And its base is a trapezoid, so that's why it's called a trapezoidal.
Completely honest, Miss Club, whenever I said trapezoidal, I just made up a word in my head.
Well, good. It worked. Okay, I don't want to do all of these, but I'm going to do a few of them. So, let's name the base to the trapezoidal pyramid. Without me coloring it, can someone tell me the base for the trapezoidal pyramid? TYXU. That would be the base. Oops. To the trapezoidal pyramid. Okay, let's name the lateral faces to the triangular pyramid. So here is a lateral face to the triangular pyramid. What could I name that one? RPT, okay. Let's name the other ones. What's another lateral face to this triangular pyramid? RPS, this guy over here, RPS. And what's the other one? PST. Does everybody agree with that? What is PST? PST is actually the base to this. So PST is the base. So it would be what? RST. It's this whole big guy right here. RST. Okay, and then it asks for edges and it asks for altitude next. Does everybody know what the edges are? Okay, then I'm going to move on to the altitude. So looking at number 8, can you tell me what the altitude is to the triangular pyramid? RO is the altitude. You can see it's perpendicular, and that would represent the height of the shape. So RO is the altitude to the triangular pyramid. So down here I'm going to put RO. The square pyramid, what would its altitude be? DC, that's its altitude. That represents its height. I can see it's perpendicular right here, so DC. Okay, and then the trapezoidal pyramid, which one's the altitude? VZ is the altitude. You can see it's perpendicular right there, and that would represent the height. VZ. VZ. Okay, so that's that. So what you guys are supposed to do is page 5. And you should be able to finish it before you leave, I think. So this is your assignment, page 5. Little bit of naming bases, naming lateral faces, etc. Any guesses?
No, I have no clue.
You could call it. You could call it a rectangular prism, and then if you want to be like specific, you could call it a regular rectangle. Regular rectangular prism. And then the other one's the first word that we wrote down on the notes. Miss Wood? Yes, I do. Yes. Yes, he is. Okay, I will. Fine. Hey, Marco, they want you to go to the attendance office real quick. Holy Yep. What'd you say? I'm sorry. So was yesterday. Crazy. Hang on, I gotta hit stop.